To scene script. Have you ever wondered how a shepherd boy could become a king? About 3,000 years ago, in the era when Israel was under the reign of King Saul, an intriguing event took place. Saul, proving to be unworthy of his position, was to be succeeded, and the task of finding his successor was entrusted to the prophet Samuel by the Lord himself. Samuel was led to the house of Jesse, a man with 8 sons. Jesse, being a proud father, introduced his sons to Samuel one by one, starting with Eliab, the eldest. Samuel, however, didn't see in Eliab what he was looking for in a king. The Lord reminded Samuel that, unlike men, he does not judge by outward appearance, he looks at the heart. This process of elimination continued, second son, third son, and so on, until all 7 of Jesse's sons had been presented. Yet none were chosen. Samuel, puzzled, asked Jesse, "Are these all your children?" Jesse admitted that there was one more, his youngest son David, who was tending to the sheep. Samuel requested to see David. David, the youngest of Jesse's sons, was a shepherd boy. He spent most of his time outdoors, under the sun, tending to the sheep. He was ruddy, handsome, and had a delightful personality. When David was presented to Samuel, something remarkable happened. The Lord spoke to Samuel, saying, "This is he." In the presence of Jesse and his sons, Samuel anointed David with oil, symbolizing that he was chosen to become the king of Israel. The shepherd boy, the youngest, the one who was almost forgotten in the lineup, was to be the future king. Contrary to human tendencies to judge by outward appearances, God chose David, not for his physical attributes or his social standing, but for his heart. This is a profound reminder for us today that true worth is not determined by outward appearances, but by the content of our hearts. And so, David, the youngest, the shepherd boy, was anointed to become the king of Israel. But before David could ascend to the throne, he would face a formidable challenge. The Philistine army, a bitter enemy of Israel, had marched up with the intent to conquer. The sight was daunting. They were lined up on one ridge, the Israelites on another, with a valley of uncertainty wedged between. Into this tension-filled landscape emerged a figure that struck fear into the hearts of even the bravest soldiers. This was Goliath, a giant among men, standing about 9 feet tall. His towering stature, coupled with a helmet of brass and a heavy metal coat of mail, made him an intimidating sight. Brass strips adorned his legs, and more brass rested between his shoulders, adding to his formidable presence. His spear, as long as a weaver's beam, and his razor-sharp sword were enough to send a chill down the spine of any onlooker. To add to this spectacle, he had a man just to carry his shield. Goliath's booming voice echoed across the valley as he issued his challenge to the Israelites. "Why have you come out to battle us?" he roared. "I am a Philistine, and you are the servants to Saul. Choose a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he can kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants, and serve us." His defiant words hung heavy in the air. "I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together." The challenge was met with silence. The warriors of Israel, who had been prepared to fight, now found themselves shrinking back in fear. Goliath was a fearsome adversary, and none seemed to possess the courage or perhaps the recklessness to face him in combat. None seemed brave enough to face the towering giant until a certain shepherd boy stepped forward. Can courage outshine fear in the face of a towering adversary? This was the question that must have echoed in the hearts of the Israelite soldiers as they stood petrified, facing Goliath. Yet amidst the sea of trembling warriors, one man stood out. A young shepherd, not a soldier, named David. David was not a stranger to danger. He had faced lions and bears while shepherding his father's flock, but Goliath was a different kind of beast. 9 feet tall, covered in brass armor and wielding a spear as long as a weaver's beam. It was a daunting sight, no doubt, but David was not just a shepherd. He was a man of faith. His belief was his armor, his trust in God, his shield. He looked at Goliath not as an undefeatable giant, but as a threat to his people, a challenge that needed to be faced. His decision to face Goliath did not come without concern, especially from his father Jesse. Jesse, who had already sent his 3 eldest sons to the front lines, was understandably worried. Yet David's resolution did not waver. He assured his father, saying, "The same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from this Philistine." The disbelief amongst the Israelite soldiers was palpable. They saw David, a shepherd boy untrained in the art of war, standing up to face a seasoned warrior. They doubted, they scoffed, but they also watched. David, after all, was the only one among them who dared to step forward. He was the only one who saw beyond Goliath's physical might and believed in the power of faith. David chose to face Goliath not with a sword or spear, but with a simple sling, a weapon he was familiar with, and 5 smooth stones from the brook. But the most important thing he carried with him was his unwavering faith in God. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin," David said to Goliath, "but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." With nothing but a sling and his faith, David was ready to face the giant. How can a shepherd boy defeat a giant? The answer lies not in size, but in faith and courage. This is the story of David, a humble shepherd, and Goliath, a fearsome giant. In the face of Goliath's challenge, it was David who stepped forward. He was not armed with a sword or shield, but with a simple sling and 5 smooth stones. The Israelite soldiers watched in disbelief as this young shepherd boy, their newly anointed future king, bravely approached the towering giant. Goliath roared with laughter at the sight of David, mocking his youth and lack of armor. But David did not falter. He met Goliath's scorn with unwavering faith, declaring, "You come against me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." With the eyes of 2 armies upon them, David reached into his bag and pulled out a stone. He placed it in his sling, and with a swift, practiced motion, he let it fly. The stone whistled through the air and struck Goliath on the forehead. The giant staggered, then fell face down onto the ground. The mighty Goliath was defeated, not by strength, but by faith and courage. The battlefield fell silent, then erupted into cheers. The Israelites had been saved, not by a mighty warrior, but by a shepherd boy with a sling and a heart full of faith. David stood victorious, a testament to the power of belief and the strength of the human spirit. This victory was more than just a triumph over a formidable enemy. It was a demonstration of the power of faith, the strength of courage, and the potential within us all to overcome the giants in our lives, no matter how insurmountable they may seem. Against all odds, David defeated Goliath, proving that faith and courage can overcome even the greatest obstacles. His story is a reminder that true strength comes not from physical might, but from the spirit within. So, what can we learn from this ancient story of David and Goliath? This tale, steeped in history and faith, imparts several profound lessons that resonate even today. One of the most significant takeaways is the danger of judging solely by outward appearances. Samuel initially overlooked David because of his youth and unassuming demeanor, yet he was chosen by God to be king. This highlights a universal truth that it's not the outward appearance, but the heart and character of a person that truly matter. Next, we are reminded of the power of faith and courage. David, a mere shepherd, had the audacity to face a fearsome giant. His faith in God was unwavering, and his courage was unshakable. It wasn't his physical strength that slayed Goliath, but his spiritual strength. This underscores that with faith and courage, we can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Moreover, the story of David and Goliath teaches us that even the seemingly weak can overcome great challenges. David, the youngest and least experienced of his brothers, was the one who stepped forward to face Goliath. It serves as a reminder that strength doesn't always come from physical prowess, but can also be found in determination, resilience, and the will to stand up for what is right. Lastly, the narrative underscores the importance of God's guidance. David didn't face Goliath on his own. He sought and received divine guidance. This tells us that when we seek divine guidance, we are never alone in our battles, no matter how giant they may seem. In essence, the story of David and Goliath is more than just an epic biblical battle. It's a timeless lesson on the power of faith, courage, and divine guidance. It teaches us to look beyond outward appearances, to stand firm in the face of adversity, and to believe in the power of the divine. The story of David and Goliath reminds us that with faith, courage, and God's guidance, we can face any giant in our lives.